This is the morning show. I'm Jeff Cook. I'm with the TJ Wilson, with Kristen Messagey and Jackie Contessa. Welcome.
Good morning.
Hey.
Good morning is right. So we were just being told by TJ that our hair looks fabulous. So for those of you listening on podcasts, just know that this is a fun fact about the four of us.
That's a good move to start with a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
Give everyone a little boost.
Skills.
Well, they should be watching this on YouTube.
We are on the YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Watch our hair.
Ooh.
What is your favorite type of compliment to get?
Mine has to be about being smart and interesting. That's the only kind I like.
The only kind.
Thank goodness I am. I don't like physical compliments. I like compliments about, being
I don't
smart
like
and
direct
interesting.
compliments.
You
I'm
don't like
trying
what?
to think about the things that I hear, besides validation from like the people that I love, of like, oh, like, great job, like whatever, commenting on things I'm doing as a general. I don't think I like direct compliments. I think the biggest compliment for me is realizing that somebody wants to be around me and allows me to do that. Like, that's a compliment, but nothing else. Yeah.
How about you guys?
I like compliments about something that I did on purpose, like chose, or like I love my hair. I like it when people compliment my hair, but it's like not like I did this. I just have it long. But when I am wearing a shirt that I bought on purpose and someone's like, that's a sweet shirt, I'm like, yes, you're right. Let's do this.
And then you're also like, we see each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Jeff?
It's indirect compliment, but if somebody quotes me back to me, then that just shows that something got internalized, and that can be very helpful. So,
Good call.
so challenge for all of you to memorize all of my work for next time. we are talking about. As I feel like I'm going to scare people away with my topic in terms of talking. I really want to talk about exposure, or even worse, vulnerability. I love this, our conversation that got brought up last time along these lines of like, what is Enneagram work really about? It seems to me that this is a place that we kind of land. And just to start things off, and we can bring in quotes in a second, but I was trying to think through my mental map of Enneagram and where this is located. And I think vulnerability and exposure actually does have kind of a heart center portion to it. And to build on some of the stuff that we've been talking about with virtue, I feel like it's just quite courageous to move into the space of where I'm exposing my heart. And that was just my first take, and I would love to hear whether or not that lands for you.
Yes. What I heard you say, Jeff. Just kidding.
I also like affirmations. That's just blanket. Yes, you are correct is my favorite.
You did a
compliment,
good job
actually.
teeing that up, Jeff. Okay, I brought for today's conversation
Please do.
the Enneagram of Avoidances. Are you all familiar with this particular
No.
round the
No.
circle? First contacted it in Sandra Maitre's book, Spiritual Dimension of the Enneagram, and it's also here in 9 Barriers of the Heart by Saleh Valander, who I interviewed on Inside Story.
Yes, you did.
So basically, every type has something that they avoid at all costs. And the others of us look at what they're avoiding and we're like, well, that's not that big of a deal, right? Not really understanding what it means to not want to contact something. So in terms of vulnerability, it seems to me that we have to be able to expose that to ourselves first in an honest way, and then maybe we can expose it to others. What do you think of the setup? And we can explore the various ones or not.
You're a verbal processor. Do you ever find 3 of us are verbal processors? In fact, do you ever find that you're talking and then the thing comes out before you even discovered it yourself, as it were?
I do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I find that happens all the time to me. That's why I kind of bring it up. Your subconscious kicks forward something that's important to you, and you're like, that's out in the world now. TJ probably does not have this experience very often, though.
I only have that experience when I'm having imaginary conversations with people by myself.
Say more.
TJ, are you a shower lawyer? Do you argue in the shower?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah.
Shower load.
Yeah,
Mr.
some of the
Advice
biggest
Inc. Esquire.
revelations in my life have been like, I was having an imaginary argument with someone, just trying to like play out how this argument would go, and just like allowing myself to follow it, and then some type of something will come up in the argument, and be like, what? Where did that come from? But it only ever happens by myself.
My mind is blown.
Kristen, can you say a few more thoughts about the Enneagram of Avoidances and exposure? I have a quote that I think might...
Bust out your quote, Jackie.
Well, so my quote is directly related to Enneagram exposure, and it's not James Baldwin. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And I think about life being like I would still like to hear about Enneagram and avoidances, but I think about life being, exposure school. I think we've been talking about Dan Siegel's book, and one of the most mind-blowing lines in that book for me is something to the effect of, life initiates needs that, or life makes us need needs that we didn't initiate in the womb. It's exposure school. Like literally all of life is exposure, but Enneagram exposure is very specific, and it's more like coordinates. Anyway, I wanted to hear about Enneagram and
So let's just run through them if everyone's interested. It's just one word per type. Won't take too much time.
I feel like it's gonna hurt my
Okay,
feelings.
so type 8. Ooh, let's guess. Okay, type 8.
No.
Anybody want to guess?
What they fear or
Vulnerability.
what they're avoiding?
Avoiding at all costs.
Vulnerability.
What?
Vulnerability. It's vulnerability.
It says weakness here,
Weakness.
which I think, yes,
Weakness.
you got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, type 9.
Conflict.
Yes. Oh, 2 out of 2. Okay, type 1 is avoiding wrongness at all costs. Okay, type 2,
Rejection,
neediness.
neediness. Oh, these are
So
okay,
the-
like internal qualities.
Yeah, these are internal qualities. TJ,
Yeah.
why is this?
Jackie's face
like it.
when you said that word.
It feels
was
really
just like,
true.
oh,
It's
this is
appropriate.
really
It
on
should.
point. Look at her face.
Every time someone says I'm not a 2, I like to piggyback off of them and imagine for a second, and then I hear something about a 2, and I'm like, damn it.
Yeah, totally. Type
Feel
3,
that. Yeah. Failure.
type 4.
Ordinariness.
Ordinary.
That's the original. Saleh kind of changes it to despair, which I like. I like them both. Because anyway, type 5.
Ignorance.
Incompetence.
Yeah, I think that's right. This one is emptiness, which I'm kind of like.
I think that works too.
Sure.
Yeah. And then type 6.
Avoid trust.
Danger.
Hopefulness.
The worst.
Wow, y'all just like really piled on there.
Toxic people. 6s avoid toxic people.
No, it's so in Sandra's book it's delinquency, like doing something wrong, being in trouble, but Saleh changes it to insecurity, which I think is really correct. So like I don't want to contact my internal sense that I can't handle things, that I'm fundamentally insecure within. And then type 7,
Being
Like
limited.
deprivation.
Pain, but we prefer to think of it as stuckedness.
Stagnation.
Yeah.
Stuck in
why
a
would
loop.
you shift it from pain? Because what's the problem?
Because
with,
they'll face pain if they know they can get out of it.
like a quick little
Yeah.
dip in and then
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll deal with this thing to get to the other side, which is where I want to be.
My husband famously, when we talk about Enneagram and stuff, the one phrase he always says is, I can't be stuck in a loop. And that's what I think it's about the loop. I think a loop of anything, but pain is probably the worst of it all. But yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, back to the emotional component, right? It's like,
Yeah.
what does
Yeah.
it feel like to be stuck?
Yeah.
Be excruciating
Stagnant.
pain.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Sorry, Jeff.
I was gonna say those jackass guys all look like 7s to me, and they're enduring quite a bit of damage.
Because
Probably
it's not
a different
physical
kind of pain.
pain.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's some sort of emotional unwellness, uneasiness.
This gets back to your original framing, I feel like, Jeff, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
these are internal, heart-centered issues, right? We have to
Yeah.
contact something here to deal with these things. You have to expose something.
I think this is why Enneagram exposure is probably, I mean, I'm biased, but like top notch. I think when I say things like self-help noise, I don't, we do things to work against the self-help noise. Like, I think it's because self-help speaks in generalities. Make your bed and let them, and all of that stuff. Open up and all that. Like, the Enneagram puts us in a very specific place. My phrase that I use ad nauseum is, why do I do that and how do I stop? Why do I do that and how do I stop? And it puts us right in the heart of, why do I do that? So we can dissolve it and get the answer to, like, how do I stop? You know what I mean? I think it's a very specific. My question to all of you guys I want to throw out is, in your opinion, is there a difference between life's exposures, relationship exposures, things that just open up the wound, and the exposure that happens with the Enneagram, even though it can also be painful?
I think it's how the exposure is interpreted. Like, the type is what decides how whatever the lifey thing is gets met or dealt with, or whatever is how I would answer that. What do you guys think? It's like one thing
That's a good
happens
question.
and there's 9 different ways to respond.
I think my thought on it is, like, if all types of exposure hurt, right? Discomfort of any kind should be like a sort of a sign that things are moving. If it's not painful but uncomfortable, right? Things are moving. And I think that's why the things that the Enneagram exposes sort of limits the rest of what we feel wounded and exposed by on the daily. I think a lot about what you said, Kristen, where you're like, one of the biggest things that the Enneagram has done for me is, I'm rephrasing, but by and large, I'm less offended. I feel less offended, right? And I think about how little things that expose us in the world, I don't know, maybe they don't do as much exposing or wounding, or maybe I'm merging these two. What do you guys think?
Hey, it's a good question.
Thank you.
I think I'm on the opposite side of our pitch about happiness, and what I want to say about happiness. I want to say that there's trajectory at work here with wounds. I think sometimes opening wounds can make you less healthy. Like, sometimes wounds should stay wounds for a second. By the way, I'm quoting Russ Hudson on this in our interview just a couple months ago with me and TJ.
Can you give an example? Please say
Sometimes
more.
you don't want to, like, sometimes you have done the work to, like, your body has naturally done the work to deal with the wound in the way that allows you to function in the world. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes people are not able to function with the wounds they have. On a flip side, and this is just, I'm beating a dead horse, so I apologize, but, like, there's some folks in the world who take jobs as therapists or counselors and love the intensity of bringing up other people's past experiences in ways that person is not capable of dealing with. And that strikes me as something, so that would be an example of, like, sometimes the wounds, you don't want to go too far. Sometimes, like, being handled well matters. So vulnerability, exposure can be really valuable, can be health producing. Not always, though. I think this is going to be a place for real wisdom. Do you see that? And maybe what does wisdom ping for you there?
What I hear you saying, Jeff, is talking about somebody else coming in and exposing something for someone else.
True. Yeah.
Which is super different than I'm
person
building
way
my
back is
capacity. I'm working toward my own stuff, and I have a desire to change, change,
or even
transform all
that
the things.
your subconscious is throwing forth things that need to be wrestled with now. I didn't realize I needed to deal with the death of my friend in high school, but all of a sudden it's in my purview, and I need to do some, okay, well, I should probably think through this a little bit more.
There's a little bit of a spectrum, I think, right? I think when I talk about the past with clients, let's say, we're talking about things that we're trying to sort of track as a pattern that still exists today but started in the past. Or there is important information about gathering, like, so to say, the house that built you, right? That's where are you at now? How? But I also, to your point, like, there is a spectrum of opening up the wound over and over, though it's attempting to scar over. I think the point of healing, the point of, let's say, setting a bone right, is to walk in the future. That doesn't mean on rainy days it's not gonna hurt your knee or whatever, but like not that there is no point in re-exposure, but it has to be purposeful. And we can see even with some types, there's an absolute avoidance of the house that built them, so to say. And then with some types, or in different levels of health, of course, different individuals, there is just deep diving into wounding and staying there because it is familiarity, and it also is a distraction from something different. So I do think it's a little bit of a continuum there, where the purpose of the past is the same thing as the purpose of a foundation of a home. And sometimes you do have to see if there's rotting, but just sometimes there isn't. And most days the house is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TJ?
Oh, I have so many thoughts.
Oh, share them all, please.
Well, I throughout a lot of this, I was thinking about picking scabs. Like,
Who wasn't, TJ? Who wasn't?
Right. I mean, that's basically my thought process for 90% of the day. But like when we pick scabs, we're often reopening wounds that are trying to heal. And so there is that element of like it's habit, it's familiar, it's normal that like I scratch at my skin. I'm like, y'all see me touching my face all the time if you watch this. Like I am a physical person connected in to my body in that way, and I pick scabs not on purpose. It's sometimes I'm getting rid of dead skin, and that's good. Sometimes I'm reopening a wound that is now going to turn into a scar because I kept picking at it. And on the other side of that, like y'all are saying, the need to address wounds that are if your bone is broken and is not reset properly, it's going to cause tremendous problems later. And the more time you spend not addressing the fundamental problem, the bigger issues are going to come from that. And I also think about the complexity of like you break a bone in your foot, and so now you have hip pain, and so you have to deal with the hip pain and the cascading effects of problems that can be created. It's really easy, like thinking about the therapy comments, like if people are addressing the wrong wound, they can also cause bigger problems, right? And so exposure needs to come with intention and wisdom and hopefully experience and desire.
There's something about this idea that going back to something and processing it actually does something. And I think that's honestly pretty well debunked at this point. I think what we know about the past is it's the emotional tone that comes with each experience that is troublesome. And that can be brought up, the intensity can be reduced, and you put a new emotion in there, and that actually fixes a problem, as opposed to actually just picking the scab and then being like, oh, today's gonna suck because I reopened that scab and it's oozing and whatever. But hopefully something will change, and it doesn't. So there's also just, we're better at knowing how to actually deal with the past now, which is give it something better. Put a new emotion into that memory.
I saw Inside Out.
Did you cry?
There you go.
I did. Twice.
Both of them?
I didn't see the second one yet.
The second one didn't do for me the way I thought it would as a person who has anxiety, but the first one, TJ, when you were talking about picking at something that is trying to heal, I think that is some of where, you know how sometimes people will, like take a BuzzFeed quiz and they'll be like, I'm rotini pasta. That's my personality. And I of course, people do that with the Enneagram, and they're allowed to do whatever they want. But I also think that the idea of picking at something that's trying to heal, I'm trying to move past it, like I don't want to go back there, shows up a lot when it comes to like the work. It doesn't matter if you're a past oriented type. I'm not talking about that. Like it shows up a lot with the Enneagram work. And I think that is why we need the Enneagram exposure specifically, even if it includes the past. Because so I wrote down a couple of bullets where I was like, why do we need Enneagram exposure specifically? And I'd love to hear your thoughts on these. You go to the place where the pattern lives to eradicate it, to dissolve it. Because the things it points to are like coordinates, like a complete picture of where we could go with all of the wiggle room to still be you, all of the possibilities. It forces you to acknowledge what's down there, right? Big fat why, and come to terms with what's true versus how we metabolize how things are true. And there is also a cost to running from something instead of living it. And what the Enneagram shows us is most of what we consider to be living our lives is avoiding one thing in particular. So I think Enneagram exposure is important. You know, like I don't think Brene Brown, our bestie, she has a quote, and I'm, off the cuff, it's something like, I'm not saying pain is fun and we need it. I'm saying it's important and we need it. And not all the time. Not all the time. Not the past all the time. Not this, that, and the other thing all the time. We're not opening wounds that are healed to redo autopsies. But we do need Enneagram exposure so that the wound actually heals. Mm-hmm. Thoughts?
And so that we address the problem at the core of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a healed
It's
wound.
interesting too, this idea of healing the avoidance. Because
Is that a semantic word that doesn't sit well with you? Because we can.
No, I just don't. No, I just don't know if I think that it gets healed. I think it gets its rightful place.
Sure. I'm using healing as the most coachy word you could possibly.
Totally,
do,
I just think it's an important thing to because I don't.
You'll never not. Yes.
You'll never not be your type.
You'll never not. Exactly.
I don't actually believe that we ever become our whatever. Like I'm never going to be
theory.
a 9.
Yeah.
It's in Russ Hudson's material, right? That an integrated 6 basically becomes a 9. And I'm like, I just don't. That's a shitty goal.
Yeah, we don't believe that.
Oh, yeah. That's okay. Yeah. So anyway, I just think the more we actually get, again, to the exposure piece, right? So when I can say to someone, I'm really worried about such and thus, and that's my fear, and I'm forwarding that because I am terrified, but I'm not putting that on you or at you. It doesn't mean it's gone. It means I get to be with it and do less damage or whatever with my avoidance. But I think it always... I'm so uncomfortable saying it because I don't want it to be true. Like, I don't want my avoidance to be with me always. But I think that's the work, is to
And I think that's where
wrap it in.
I think that's where Enneagram exposure is. Like when I say that Enneagram exposure desensitizes you to the things that would normally make you feel exposed out there or whatever. It's not that it goes away, but I think it feels less like a threat. Like I still ping all of the 2E things that would normally make me take a step back and assess how to handle the fact that I'm about to feel rejected, right? But there's a dullness there, and it's because I've been exposed to so much that's taken me to the heart of the matter. And the heart of the matter is right there with me when I'm in an exposure moment in real life.
The first set of podcasts that TJ and I did were on the shadow side, and we really pushed hard into avoidance, partially because avoidance moves us one step further towards another category, which is what we settle for in our type. And this is where I think things get real sinister. And so since we're doing lists today,
now I'm excited.
I love lists. And I love it when people tell me that they love my lists and quote them back to me, as was said earlier. The going around the circle with the list, I think you can see how when we are avoiding something that's kind of core to our type, how when we settle for something, the settling can be in an unhealthy space. So we started with 8s, and this is my list. So you may have to correct me what the author.
I'm
that
sure
you were
it's
citing
perfect, Jeff.
but I'm sure it is. We talked about the avoidance for 8s being vulnerability, and that they can settle for a posture of aggression over the genuine agency they desire. And that would be the move. There is something that 8s actually want, but they can settle for something else. 9s are avoiding conflict, and they can settle for calm. They can settle for passivity. But what they actually want is genuine peace, and sometimes genuine peace requires conflict. That actually is what I should be saying. In order for the 8 to have genuine agency, you might need to get vulnerable. In order for the 9 to have genuine peace, you might need to engage conflict. 1s avoid being at fault on our list, and we can settle for being right. So easy. Bubblegum, throw that in your mouth, as opposed to actually seeking out the genuine wholeness and goodness that is desired. 2s we had as avoiding their own needs, and they can settle for appreciation. But what they really want is genuine loving care. That comes out sideways. Am I saying that correctly, Jackie?
It feels correct. It feels
Does
offensive.
it pings for you? We had that 3s are avoiding failure and can settle for image, can settle for self-promotion over the genuine excellence that they really desire. This is something that Kelly brought forth that I've just found really valuable. The 3s don't want to simply appear excellent. They want genuine excellence. Yeah. And if we don't see that they want genuine excellence, we miss something really core to how 3s function. 4s are avoiding what's ordinary and can settle for being complex, settle for being unique over the genuine meaning that they're seeking. By the way, this is all in an upcoming book, published in 2027, y'all. The 5th, we had the avoidance of involvement for 5s. And they settle for something like security over the comfort of genuine insight and wisdom. And 6s, we had avoidance of hope and trust.
Are you serious?
That's our avoidance.
Okay, carry on.
But we can unpack that. The book has yet to be published. We're looking for plussing.
We've had this discussion at least once, the 3 of us.
We had that 6s are going to settle for doubt or safety created by others over the genuine stability desired. But I can see that, like, avoid
Hold
trusting
on. I'm so
yourself.
sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
Settle for doubt or what is the other thing?
We had settle for doubt or safety created by others.
Okay.
Over the genuine stability that
I'll allow it.
is craved. But at least in some of our conversations, we could build on this. The avoidance of trusting one's self, I know, is a primary for you in terms of your coaching, yeah? Telling 6s they need to trust themselves and quit outsourcing your authority.
I would never say it that way, first of all.
I say that way.
Need to do.
How would you say it?
Well, I just really appreciated the insecurity, because what it really is this sense of truly not being able to handle uncertainty, which is, so trust oneself is like a branch of that tree. So the tree, the core feels like, an internal insecurity. It just feels very different.
I think that the word security communicates something that a lot of people assume is external.
Yes.
And a lot of the way that 6s are painted is about external security.
Yep.
And part of why we like to sort of move away from that and move into the realm of doubt and trust and even words like stability rather than insecurity, security, because there is so much happening in a 6's world that is about their own distrust of themselves, of the systems, of the way that things work. Like, it may not all work out, and it's not necessarily about external. It's also about my own capabilities. It's also about the people in my life. The people, are they actually trustworthy? So I think I was thinking about like people on a boat, people who are on boats regularly. They get their sea legs, and they do not feel unstable on a boat. I would instantly, no question. and I probably never get used to it because I hate the water. But like that, it's not about whether or not the boat is stable. It's about whether they trust their own legs to stay stable on the boat.
Right.
Like a bird trusts its wings, not the branch kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So are we
Do you have-
agreeing, or are you?
I would love your
mansplaining
feedback.
choices?
Yeah.
What's your response to that, Kristen?
No, I feel strongly that the insecurity placed inside is correct. That's the avoidance, because these other things are branches of the fundamental internal experience of insecurity.
Yeah. We know 6 is insecurity by its manifestations, but it's really coming from an internal source, and that's a thing that we shouldn't miss. Jeff, what was 7? Did you do 7?
Nope. Thank you, Sevens, for hanging out and waiting till the end. Sevens always get pitched at the end for this is a bad.
Because they got to learn to wait. Say it louder to William. Mr. Contessa, you got to learn to wait.
You can't tell them that because they already left. The Sevens avoid stagnation in our language and can settle for excitement or novelty over the genuine satisfaction they desire.
What I hear from all of these very clearly is you need to engage what you are actively avoiding, that you think is going to lead to the worst. You need to actively engage that because it is the exact path to what you want. Yes? Am I hearing that right?
Yes.
Our language has been that you kind of have all of the types given their type in the funnel through which they experience the world and get what they want. You end up having something like a 40-pound weight in one of your hands that needs to just be exposed. You need to be aware of, and it is your fear. Your fears lead to your avoidance. Your avoidance leads to what you settle for. And if things get really unhealthy, that slides into your passion.
What?
No, say that again.
So in our view, when we did shadow work, we think that everything starts with your fear.
Yes.
The fear is going to lead to what you avoid. So you fear something and then you avoid it. And so we've talked about avoidance and what we settle for. In our view, we think that it all starts with the thing that each of the types fear, but the fear is going to come out of something like it's like the opposite of your motive. So like 1's fear corruption, or 2's fear being unwanted, or 3's fear being worthless. Let's just go through it. 4's fear being insignificant. 5's fear being incompetent. 6's fear lacking support. 7's fear being deprived. 8's fear being controlled. 9's fear losing connection. Those are primal. Those are the opposite of what their motive is, and that's why they manifest themselves as fears. Fear I need to think through the word fear, because we use fear as an underlying feeling as well. So this is different than the underlying feeling. But it seems to me that fear can get us on tilt, as it were, and start moving us towards our shadow. And so like the dark path, as it were, the one that I just love this kind of thinking. I think it will lead to your sin. It will lead to a list that we have called our fixation. Like when the passion that you really struggle with gets into your brain and starts really doing damage to your self-perception and your relationships. And that is what disintegration, quote unquote, looks like in my view, and TJ's view. Disintegration is not moving to your stress number. Disintegration is sliding into excess.
I must interrupt.
Yeah, please. I'm lecturing now, and I apologize.
The passion and the fixation, to me, they're always at play. This is how I think about it and teach it.
Yeah,
it's not like a step, this, then this. It's like
Sure.
the passion and the fixation they're like this.
Okay.
Are you
At
sort
all
of talking about a
times.
continuum, Jeff? Because I hear what you're saying, Kristen, like it's always at play, but it does start and generate from somewhere, right? Like a core, like you were saying, maybe not fear, but like I'm going to use the word threat. So a core threat to what we want most: agency, bonding, certainty, right? A core threat to these things. We avoid those things. Avoidance of those things perpetuates just key beliefs that they live there. It just is. And because of it just is, because of the core threat, because of what we really want, It just is that we use our passion to sort of upkeep who we have to be without touching this thing that we're afraid of. That's how I'm
and the
hearing a
narratives.
continuum that always happens, but does start from a core place. Like I hear what you're saying, Jeff.
The idea that I'm playing with, and I would love your thoughts, is like I think that getting to that space of the passion sin, it takes a couple steps. But it may be the case that that's just a very easy road to slide down. In
I think
my
the
view,
whole personality is built around avoiding that. That is always there.
avoiding the passions and fixations.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think some folks
Passion.
can find a nice little home here.
You think we avoid our passions?
The avoidance is fueled by the ever-present passion and fixation. And
I see what you're saying. The
Yeah.
avoidance in the list that you gave.
right.
I'm using that in two different ways. Sorry.
Okay.
Say what you say your thought again.
I think the reason I'm just like, what's going on? Is this like the passion and the fixation? They're always doing their thing. And then there's this level of I'm this with it, or I'm like, as I get healthier or whatever, this occurs. I've got more flexibility. I've got more ability to contact the thing that I'm avoiding, all of that. So I think it's like it's always happening. What's the degree of stuckness and whatever? Like this is the automaticity, right? This is like lowest levels. Everything's really spinning. And then as we do our work or things are maybe easier or whatever, it loosens. But this whole step thing is tripping me up, which it doesn't matter. That's fine.
I think both of you are sort of saying to some degree that our passions are, by one way or another, though upkept, though always sort of there, a result of this thing we're avoiding, this threat to the thing that we want most. And it's always there. It's always constant. It doesn't just happen after we suddenly become aware of a fear or something. It's just always there. But it is a result of something that kicks it off. And I think that something that kicks it off is the threat to the thing we want most. So I hear that it like has unfolded to a certain degree, but it is always there. And like, I'm not a fully healed person. So my pride, oh girl, I'm aware of her more, but it's not like she's not there. You know what I mean? So is it just always just is? It are two like black and white ends of ways of seeing this, but I think you guys are both right.
I also think like it's a chicken or the egg conversation to me. And I know that for a lot of people, understanding that domino effect, people like Jeff, that actually helps him understand the system and himself and get to his thing. And like, I don't know that that's necessary for all people, but I think that if we're looking at like how we got to this passion, like the problem is not necessarily how we got to the passion. Like as a 9, I struggle with sloth. I struggle with that period. How I got here is not necessarily important because I am here. But I will not be effective in my life at addressing my problems if I only address the sloth.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Like if I come to
Very
the
good.
sloth and say I need to fix this problem, it won't work.
Correct.
But if I recognize that sloth is fed by this thing, which is fed by this thing, which is fed by this thing, which actually is about the fact that I fear losing connection, here I can do some work. And so understanding, like it again, it's the same thing. It's the exposure. It's I'm going to address my hip pain by treating the broken bone in my foot.
9 types of exposure are necessary,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah. And I don't think that there's any, I agree that they are enmeshed and they're ever present. I will be struggling with sloth for my whole life, but I can do an effective work at struggling with that if I start to address the other stuff as well. And then sloth has less of a hold. The more exposure to these other things, the less they're entangled.
Okay, let me posit this to y'all. So you say, I said y'all. Sorry, I live in Texas. I can't help it.
I say y'all.
I say y'all, and I'm from Jersey.
It's a good
My
non-gender.
Northwest roots
Yeah.
cringe every time I say it. Anywho, that's just me. Anywho. Okay, so TJ, you said struggle with sloth.
Yes.
So what about making room for this? Like, I always like language that is more like accepting and open-handed of the things we need to, quote, fix, because I don't think we fix them. I think we, again, make space for them. We make room for them. We accept them, give them a proper role. And it might be semantics, but I don't think it is. And I'm curious how you all feel about your own particular deal. When I get out of a negative relationship with all my stuff, that's when I really find I can live well.
When I deconstruct the concept of pride and like why pride is a means to an end for what I really want to do, making space for it in all of its healthy ways. And I'm not saying I reject it when it's here. I'm like, get out of here. I have to look at it for what it is. But to say, hey, that's still part of me and I have to make room for it in a healthy way. But I know there are certain parts of pride that make it very unhealthy for me. If I strip those away and I do all of the things I want to do through pride without all the bad stuff, that's humility. That's my virtue. And I think that's really similar to all of the types.
Jackie, what's an example of that? If you could think of one.
I will think of one if you want to comment on something, because I'm sure you do. No? Please.
Okay. No, I don't. I just would really love to hear that, like in
because I do think like there is an inclusion in acceptance, right? Of saying like I have pride in my life, or I saw pride here, and I have to include it. It is pride, a part of me. But like when I work with centers of intelligence, for example, right, and I'm talking to heart types about shame. I'm not saying the berating shame is needed. What I'm saying is that when you remove all of the things that shame tells us that we need to do to have value, whatever, it operates more like conviction. And so when I think about if I remove all the stuff that exposure tells me I need to remove from pride, it operates like humility. And that's my because it's got less spikes on it.
An example, but that's
I
okay.
don't have an example.
Think of one. Come back. I want to know.
I'll try.
Message me privately.
I would say
I really
I'll
want
voice
to
note you.
understand it in.
I'll voice note you after I digest it. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff.
I have a hard time having a relationship with the most toxic elements of myself. That's not really in my wheelhouse. I have
May I invite you?
That's that self-over control, buddy.
It is a sense that there are some things that are, well, I do this with my physical body as well. If it were the case, I don't want to have a relationship with my cancer. I want to destroy my cancer. I think that's my posture toward this way of being. I can understand the value of saying something to the effect of, have a relationship with your foolishness, have a relationship with your addictive self, have a relationship with the cowardice within you. My intuition is, I suppose, what I would want to say with exposure and vulnerability is along the chain of here are where one struggle most would be to name the things that I think are doing damage to my heart, to my mind, to my relationships, to allow those to come forth and not be hidden. It can be a healing move. I don't know that that's a relationship. That is in my view, that's a diagnosis, and it's maybe it's the case that it's naive to think that you can eradicate certain things, but I do think you can build muscle such that like your some of these elements of oneself simply lack power, So, but I see you nodding in terms of saying, yes, you do need to have a healthy relationship with all of
mean,
your
it's just
debauchery.
my opinion.
You
Yeah,
know?
because what you've heard the phrase "what we resist persists."
What? Well,
That is a truthy truth right there.
I mean, that may be false, but if I resist, so I mean, there's some qualities of us in my home. If I were to make great friends with this element of myself, am I granting them power in my spaces? This is going to be a primary for me in terms of agency over myself, but I would just be very aware of those sorts of things.
Well, yeah,
you know what I
then they
mean
don't
there?
have power. I'm winning.
If you make a
this.
relationship with them,
So picture
maybe
a
we
dinner
should talk
table.
about a relationship. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, picture a dinner table, and every part of you is invited to be at the table. You're at the head of the table. Everything that you don't want to feel, do, be, whatever, but is at the table. But they have to just be at the table. They're not in charge. They get a chair, and they're there. And when I give those parts of me a chair at the table, then they're not in charge.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm like, you can't be here and you gotta go away, then all my energy is going toward the attempted management of this thing that I just can't accept or be with. Where if I pull up the freaking chair, then
I'll get you.
I can do other things.
I'll get to you, Jackie. Let me. I would love to just push into that real quick. My own view is that these sorts of your worst self and your best self are part of the same coin. You know, kind of Enneagram wisdom there. In my view, like a lot of the worst elements of one's self are actually look much more like a privation, look much more like a part of you that was made to be healthy and good that have corroded and need some repair. So like the desire to, I don't know, what's something? Self-esteem has a real place, and if you have too little self-esteem, you're going to be in bad shape. If you have way too much self-esteem, you're going to be in bad shape. Finding like that element of myself, like what's the healthy place to live in that space, would be how I would want to wrestle with things. I don't know what else to say there aside from that's how I conceive of things. I made it a binary, but I shouldn't. I should make it more. I think you can fall off the horse on either side.
Kristen, may I call you that? The example you gave about the dinner table, I think is, it sounds like acceptance to me, right? Acceptance of all of the parts of you, but also I think that's a really good, not real life example of what I was trying to say about pride and humility. Like, what is the purpose of fear or cowardice's seat at the table in your life right now?
The purpose of it is that it gets to live and not control me. That's my
okay.
yeah.
So sorry. Fast forward, like in general, to you as an Enneagram 6 before work or whatever. Like, what is the purpose of fear or cowardice? What is it? What's the buffer between life and, or what buffer does it provide?
I don't think I understand the question.
My next question is going to be,
cowardice says I can't handle it. So the mechanism before any work is, so I'm going to try to get someone else to handle what I think I can't.
Okay. You do the work at it. You give it the seat at the table. It's not the master. You accept it. You do all those things without the parts where you sort of outsource it. That's self-confident courage, which is my word for the virtue for type 6. So that's what I'm talking about. I think acceptance of your vice's place in your life, but doing the work on it essentially has that thing not operating as a vice, but operating as a virtue. I think they're two sides of the same coin. That's what I'm saying. I know I don't have a real life example for it, but does that make a little bit more sense?
Totally. No, the concept absolutely lands. I'm just very interested in like what.
No,
that
so you want me to be
looks like
vulnerable?
what that
I have to send you a voice note then. Yeah.
TJ.
It's totally fine. I'm just really curious. I mean, I only deeply know this for myself, right? So I'm very interested in how that plays, what an example would be for other types. TJ, you got anything?
I'm mostly fascinated by the way this discussion is representative of type.
It's meta.
It's so meta. How could it not be?
And TJ is piling on by not taking a side on any of
I was
this,
gonna
by the way.
say,
Yeah.
I'm just up here watching y'all. No, I think that like so that dinner table example, like, yeah, we should like put the parts of ourselves in their proper place. We shouldn't let the destructive, terrible parts of ourselves sit at the head of the dinner table. And eventually, you might realize that that destructive part of yourself that was at the head of the table and is now not anymore is actually a zombie trying to eat your other guests. And like maybe he should wait in the hallway, right? Like there, I think that some of we're going to be doing this work until we die, but part of progress, like if there is a point where we stagnate, that is going to be our downfall. Like if all we're doing is creating space for all of the disparate parts of ourselves to be at the table, then eventually we're all just at a dinner party, right?
And
like
that's
at some
terrible
point,
because-
some of those guests need to get the out because they're being jerks and they don't deserve to be there anymore. And sometimes your dad invited your drunk uncle to come and do something unspeakable at the dinner table, and like that guest does not deserve to be there anymore. And like maybe it takes some time to get up the courage to say, oh yeah, no, you get out. So I think there's a middle space where like it is about working to eradicate these things from ourselves, but we're not going to accomplish that in our lifetime.
Okay, let me finish the analogy. Okay, so we keep doing our work, we keep accepting yada yada yada, and eventually somebody gets up and leaves.
Yeah.
I think that's way more workable than I'm going to eradicate a part of me. Mm-hmm. I mean, in all honesty, good luck to eradicating parts of yourself in like a healthy way. I just don't think that's how anything works. But I could be wrong.
The claim would be that these are not parts of myself, and that is why. The
language, at some point it pinged. I was like, this language isn't probably working. But what is language that would work?
Well, let me say that I think that what you're coming to the table with actually is a healthier view than mine. I think mine strikes me as fairly extreme.
Well, and just what's the functionality of eradicating?
Because
if
it's
we
not
could
good.
look around, look at the world. We can't eradicate the worst of anything. So if we take I'm getting all fired up. Go ahead, Jeff. I'll listen.
I think that your posture is a healthier posture. I think that the extremism that comes into my language comes because I feel, and this may be my one side again, I just feel urges toward very unhealthy behaviors, thinking, and postures of heart at a very intense level. And because of that, it's really hard for me to create space for them. So and I bring this up frequently, but like I just have a very, very violent gear. If I don't completely set that aside as thoroughly unacceptable, I go down very dark paths in my mind, in my heart, and how I would make choices in the future. And so my extremism when it comes to nonviolence ends up being kind of a self-protective move. I wish I didn't have to go to that space at some levels, but I don't know how else to confront that. You know what I mean there? Speaking of exposure.
I was going to say, because Kristen's exposure and Jeff's exposure are going to be very different because you guys are different types maybe. It just lands different, feels different. I don't, I think when I have worked with some Enneagram types, they're like, this has got to go, as if it's, what is it called? Frostbited limb, a completely frostbitten?
Yeah.
it's got to go. It's got to go. It's got to go. It's like cancer. And to some people, it's like, I just have to stop doing this. To some people, it's, this is just who I am. And to part with this is fatal. This is actually, I thought that this was the way forever. Right. So I think it's very different for all people. But I think that's why, as a commonality, Enneagram exposure is where the F it's at, because it is 9 languages of here's how you get to who you are.
Good word. Last words on exposure and vulnerability.
We need it.
I think when we talk about the specific Enneagram exposure, if we're not that type, we essentially discount the difficulty.
Good point.
I ended up writing a book on C.S. Lewis like 30 years ago. One of my favorite quotes from Lewis is about vulnerability. At the end of Four Loves, he says, to love at all is to be vulnerable. Love anything. Your heart will be wrung and possibly broken. If you want to make sure of keeping it intact, you must give it to no one, not even an animal. Wrap it carefully around with hobbies and little luxuries. Avoid all entanglements. Lock it up safe in the casket of your selfishness. But in that casket, safe, dark, motionless, airless, it will change. It will not be broken. It will become unbreakable. To love is to be vulnerable. And I like that as an image of there is an opposite side here if one doesn't go down the path of exposure.
C.S. Lewis hated twos, I think. That was a very painful quote. When I work with twos, I say, to summarize, there's no love without risk of loss. And when they hear that, they're like, oh shoot. I'm like, all right, cool. Now let's be you. But I think it was a beautiful quote. I'm like, wow, that hurt me in the feelings, all of them. Thank you.
I would have guessed that quote would have like elevated your intuitions about.
I'm still working on going. I'm really good at offering things to get people to like me. Here's me.
Yeah.
I offer me now. Like, I'm still working on that. I'm still a person. So I'd be stupid to say that there's not a vulnerability piece in there. Why are we getting to this at the hour mark? Anyway. Yeah.
TJ, what are your finals?
I really liked this quote. I did not work hard on finding a quote, but the one that I saw that I really liked says, he showed me his scars, and in return, he let me pretend that I had none. And that reminds me that exposure and vulnerability is a communal event. We talked a little bit about like the therapist who gets in the job because they just love the trauma and they love being in the midst of the trauma. Like, that's problematic. But like, as in a lifelong marriage, partnerships, like any real connection requires vulnerability, and good, healthy, like life-giving exposure and vulnerability will require community.
I'm laying in on community on all these.
Me too.
Did you get to go, Jackie, or were you just commenting on mine?
I'm just commenting on everybody's, and that's all I got. No, this is beautiful. Please be exposed. That's my last thought.
Bang. Good word. Hey, start of the new week. Good things to elevate in our hearts. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey friends, it's Jeff. We're going to interview some of the most intriguing people in the Enneagram world. There are already 20 plus interviews up at aroundthecircle.org, and we're continuing to add more. That site is where we're gathering and platforming all of our best work. Much of it is available for free. Katie Whitlock and I have been doing deep studies working through wings, stance, fear, anger, and shame in our Rewired series. I'm beginning to release chapters from my next Enneagram book, which I'm calling The Steps, for early review for your consideration. And we have monthly online workshops in which 30 or so folks gather to talk about their type. There's audiobooks, there's videos, there's lots of fun stuff, lots to like. Go to aroundthecircle.org, and may all good things be yours.